what I do for a living is far from what most of you are planning to or do for a living. I work in a creative industry, and I enjoyed very much what Mr. Peter had to say, and agree totally. And I think what I hope to conclude is similar to your point, that we need to think creatively about our situation, because psychologically we might be waiting for someone to come up with a solution, but as our life goes by and the clock keeps ticking, we'll find out what we found out the last 40 years, that no one really gives a, you know what. What we do for a living is basically think out of the box. If we don't think out of the box, we don't sell ideas, which is what we do, that are unique. So if we cannot sell unique ideas, we would fail as advertising people. And I'm going to invite you to try and do the same today. And what I would like to first of all start with is just briefly run you through how could Lebanon be branded as a brand the same way we brand a shampoo or a toothpaste or a product that you buy in the supermarket. Because at the end of the day, each and everyone in this room brands himself. If you're going on a date, you brand yourself to your date. If you're standing on a podium, you try to brand yourself to your audience, and so on and so forth.
Very true.
In a nutshell, what we do for a living is develop branding and marketing to sell products. I personally think the creative industry we're in is doing the wrong thing when we should be doing something else. What we do is we try to sell people products they don't need, with probably money they don't have, to probably be someone they won't ever be. And this is how the thing goes. And this is capitalism, in a sense, which I'm not entirely with. I think if we try to apply the same principles to a country, they would apply exactly 100%. Imagine a world unbranded. What kind of food would you buy? This can? What kind of drink? How can you make choice? You can't. You'll be forced to, because there's only water in different unbranded bottles. You'll just have to drink water at some point. But the reason you buy the water that you buy is because you trust that water, or you think it's a better water, or someone is making you believe it is. The same principles would apply. Branding creates differentiation. This is why you recognize the product that you buy from a zillion other products on the shelf, because it's differentiated. Differentiation leads to trust and familiarity. I don't trust this. I'm not familiar with it. And if I'm not really thirsty, I'll probably not buy it because I don't know what goes in there. But if I show you this, I'll probably get any of these. Mind you, they might be exactly the same. But it's just a matter of perception. Branding and differentiation increases the value of a brand. An unbranded cup of coffee would probably be around 1.25. A branded one would be 3.25. If I brand my country, I'll be charging more value from people that are coming to visit, study, work, invest, rather than having them come up with all different ideas about what my country stands for me. So to conclude this section and move to the country branding, differentiation drives value, drives trust, and uniqueness. To all of us in this room, I hope we believe that our country is unique and is different and is valuable. If we apply the same thinking to branding a country as a brand, let me show you just a quick appetizer of how other countries have done it. Sometimes we refer to this as country or nation or destination branding. It's all the same. So let's just stick to, let's tag a country for what it really stands for. This map shows you all the countries around the world that have country branding, their logos and their tagline. A tagline is what they stand for, in a sense. I'll run you through some. So this is Japan, Ecuador, this is for Jihad. Qatar, this is something I did in my previous agency, and we sold it to Qatar. This is Egypt,
Omar,
Jordan.
can I interrupt you?
Please.
أنا بعرف the new slogan and the council of the consul actually of Ecuador is with us. I guess the new selling line is all you need is Ecuador, no? Okay.
Excellent. Actually, this is not dated. It's usually, because it's probably new, this is what you find mostly when you Google things around. Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Spain, South Africa, even Nigeria. To those of you in this room who've gone to Nigeria, with all respect to the Nigerian people, the thing I've heard the Lebanese criticize most on the plane from Nigeria, and I used to travel to Africa almost on a weekly basis, and you get to see the same people in and out, and every time they're criticizing the same thing, how Nigeria lacks transparency, how corruption is everywhere, how you need security to go around in Nigeria. Guess what? By the end of year 2 of my Nigeria project, I started to think that our country was worse. I know. Unfortunately. France, Holland, I worked on Incredible India back then. Conclusion from this, your logo does not summarize what your country is or what your brand does, but your logo differentiates it. It's just like a name that you call yourself by. No one will care if my name was Tony, Omar, Muhammad, or Ali, or whatever. They'll just know me as that name. And this is the same thing that a logo does. Now, what goes into the beef of a brand, of a country, that should differentiate us, drive trust, and drive value?
Omar, can I interrupt you? You were behind the Incredible India.
Not behind it, I was part of the team back
You were
then.
part
I was
of the
still
team. Can you
younger.
offer for Lebanon 2025 a slogan for Lebanon?
Nothing will give me more pleasure.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Actually, the reason I've had job offers in all the way from Geneva to London to Spain to Paris, Africa, and I refused all and I stayed here. And that was part of the reason why I left as vice president of the Great Group for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, started my own company in Lebanon. And it's a startup company. It's because I believe in this country. So to kind of refocus again, before we go into more creative stuff, and I promise it'll be entertaining, I'll finish the day for you on a good note, hopefully. Branding a country is the sum of experiences and ideas which make a place unique. Otherwise, it would just be a place or just a country. Today, I bet you, to the majority of the international community, Lebanon is just a Lebanon. You can't even find it on the global map. Unless the global map was really scaled up big, you'll notice that small, tiny, little piece with 4 million people divided into 19 sects. And we still cannot even agree. If being a Muslim, I hide my tail behind my pants, or if by being Christian, I hide my horns under my hat, while the rest of the world is trying to have a decent life. Second, branding a country measures, builds, and manages the reputation of a country in international and public affairs. Third, it extends to the public and the private sector and helps with building nationalism. It helps to finally stop us from trying to say what I believe in, if at all anything, rather to stand for who I am as a person and where I belong. And this is something we do not have. And this is the sad truth. It is the mix of characteristics that make a country distinctive, memorable, and competitive. Competitive in today's tech world, economic arena, and so on and so forth. And tourism is the loudest country branding voice ever. Sadly, we boast the wrong things to invite tourism into our country. And we have the syndrome of blonde hair and blue eyes. If a countryman who has good experience, good knowledge, comes and tries to venture, back to Mr. Kelly's points about creating new things without having the fear of what will they say, how will we do it, and so on and so forth, we shun them down. But if we hear of somebody in a ridiculous village somewhere down under in a bigger country that has people with blonde hair and blue eyes, we immediately think, look how cool. And we start circulating it on the internet and we build that hype all around. We do not have pride in ourselves. We do not have pride in our country. We do not have faith that we have the power to change. Sadly, no one else will. We will have to change. Country branding also has an add-on that comes with it, which is referred to as the country of origin effect. And this is basically where you successfully transfer the image you created to that brand of a country to your own product, made in Lebanon. And it's something that started several years back, very shyly, but very correctly. And then, the usual corruption and terrorism and what have you in this country and the divide that we had just stopped it. And that had strong potential. We have the best produce in the entire region that we exist in. And we don't even export an apple. Another add-on to branding a country is brand urbanism. Brand urbanism is an easy way to start a weak government branding a strong country. It is the joint venture between the public sector and the private sector. It is when you invite multinational or large companies in the country to invest money in building parks, in improving streets, in having town squares, in doing anything that kind of has a halo effect on the entire country. And this is something that we should also be doing. There is the country brand index is a study that measures the branding of countries and how much it is recalled versus the characteristics of that country. We obviously are nowhere on that chart. What I want to share with you is an example, and this is the last section of my presentation today, of how we can create a country branding. I chose something that is not very recent, since 2012, but one of the most successful case studies on country branding from the UK. And they did this campaign building on the London Olympics and the Paralympics at the time where it was also the Diamond Jubilee. So a lot of factors were coming together for the UK to build this campaign. And I'll show you what they came up with. You know, the UK is called England or Great Britain. They chose the word great from their name, and they tagged to the word great everything that the whole world believes in that is in the UK. And I think this is a fantastic way of getting attention and standing for something that truly represents who you are. Greatness was the single-minded idea that they used. And I'm posing here because it starts with a single-minded idea. I'll show you this film. They developed, by the way, about close to 100 films. This is called The Sounds of Great Britain, but they had one on all the messages I will show you later. heritage is Great Britain. And they started highlighting all the ancient locations across the United Kingdom. Culture is Great Britain. Culture. Creativity. Music. Knowledge. Business. Innovation. Technology. Countryside. Food. Sports. Paddington Station. Obviously, for those of you who've been to the UK, you cannot go around without even passing there. Shopping. Even Bond is Great Britain. And that was on the release of Skyfall's film. Share your Great Britain. They're even enticing you to engage in user-generated content, which is now governing the rest of the world and getting revolutions to even happen. They did this huge travel suitcase bag in several key airports in different international countries to kind of drive people to want to visit the UK. I have this film. I hope this one will work, actually. So anyway, this campaign, in less than 5 years, contributed almost $3.5 billion to the UK as a result of people who are either going there to visit, invest, study, or simply as just tourism. So this, back to our points, differentiated, it added value, and at the end of the day, they are now using it, and it's running in almost 300 cities around the world, ongoing. They took it a step further, and when it comes to rights, for example, you know the UK has very high gay rights. Love is Great Britain. Education is Great Britain. They started to talk about kids with creative abilities and so on and so forth. So it morphed from just being a campaign to attract tourism to being the official UK word to the rest of the world. Now, if you think for a minute, what's the official word that Lebanon is sending to the world? I wonder how many thousands of ideas those could be, probably 90% of which are on the wrong side. I hope the last film would play, though. If it doesn't, I'll sum it up for you. And I left the section to tell you basically how we do country branding. I'll just skip this, and I'll end with the last question. What do you want the idea of Lebanon to be? Each and every one of you here has some certain level of emotional connection to this country, a certain level of pride, a wish that they could feel, I am from here, and here is this, and what do you want it to be? The end film I wanted to show you was a project that I worked on about 10 years ago in my previous job, and we sold it to one of the top 3 banks in the country. And what it does show you is basically a stage like this one, and you have all nationalities from the rest of the world wearing their traditional dress, standing on stage and saying, I'm an American, I'm an Emirati, I'm a Kuwaiti, I'm a Senegalese, I'm so and so and so and so, until eventually you see a guy that comes and says, أنا سني, أنا شيعي, أنا أرثوذكسي, وأنا, and then the Lebanese flag drops. And there's a question at the end, when will we become Lebanese? And I think we have to become Lebanese first before we try to define what Lebanon we really want. The elections are around the corner. The elections are around the corner, and those elections are going to decide our life, all of us. The people deciding our life so far, they have, in a sense, been in an occupation task for the last 4. So it's enough that we stand up for what we want. The unemployment rate is ridiculous. It makes you want to cry. It's crazy. In my industry, 85% of the creative talent that works either in design or communication in the Middle East and Africa are Lebanese. But they're not here. That's just one example. I want to thank you for your time. I hope I wasn't too blunt, but honesty sometimes needs to be. It's a good wake-up call. And thank you for lasting this long.